Hey everybody, this is GGB, and today I'm going to be talking about the 5 college football games with playoff relevance heading into a major conference championship weekend. We can decide all 4 teams right here, right now. LSU's hopes could end right here, right now. So many teams are going to be watching for these final games, and I think it's going to be really hype. So it's 12 o'clock. We have Georgia Tech, who's 5-6, traveling to number 1 Georgia, who's 11-0. Georgia's favored by 35.5 points on ESPN. Go over the stats real quick. Jeff Sims for Georgia Tech's gone 110, 188. Thrown for 1,115 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And before you turn off, Georgia Tech fans, I know Jeff Sims is no longer your starting quarterback because of the injury. And your third string is now starting, and that's going to be tough. But remember, this is a game to get to bowl eligibility against Georgia. Huge game for Georgia Tech. Hassan Hall had 115 carries for 520 yards and a touchdown. Nate McCollum's had 54 catches for 590 yards and 3 touchdowns. Stetson Bennett for Georgia's gone 236 for 348, then for 3,011 yards, 14 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Kenny McIntosh has had 111 carries for 568 yards, 7 touchdowns, and Brock Bowers has had 41 catches for 625 yards and 4 touchdowns. Georgia leads the series all time, 69-41. Last 4 games have gone to Georgia, ranking from 2017 to 2021. Last Georgia Tech victory was in 2016, and that one was at Athens, and yes, they did beat Kirby Smart. This is a huge game for many fans. Any fans of teams that want to make the playoffs. TCU, Ohio State, Michigan. Obviously, you're going to be watching your own game. Ohio State, Michigan, Clemson, USC, LSU. Any team that wants to make the playoffs, this is going to be a huge game. LSU fans should be watching this game. I know you're going to be tempted for watching the Michigan-Ohio State game. This is a huge game for you. And because while South Carolina beating Clemson would be great, if Notre Dame beat USC, that would be great. Both those teams still have chances to lose in the conference championship. You can be eliminated right here, right now, if Georgia doesn't lose to Georgia Tech and if TCU doesn't lose to Iowa State. That's the only way you get in, is if those 2 things happen if you're LSU. One of those 2 things has to happen. So this is going to be a huge game for LSU fans. They're going to be desperately rooting for Georgia Tech. Basically, if you're a team that wants to make the playoffs right now, you're going to be so desperately rooting for Georgia Tech. This is a huge game for a lot of teams. Georgia Tech's in trouble, right? Like, last game, they eked by a UNC team, which at the moment looked good, but lost to NC State today. This is going to be a rough one if you're Georgia Tech, right? And I hate to say it because YJ is one of my best friends, and he's a Georgia Tech fan, and I hate Georgia with a passion. But Georgia's a much, much better football team than Georgia Tech is. It's not all that close. And that's when Jeff Sims is healthy. Georgia Tech's underdogs by 35.5 points, and there's a reason. As much as I hate to say it, I think Georgia wins this one. I think they win it by a lot, and I think they cover the spread and maybe ensure themselves a spot in the playoffs, depending on what else happens today.